Since the beginning of time, game-based learning has been used to teach survival skills, hunting, strategy, combat, and much more. As children grew within a community, games were employed to teach them the skills they would need to survive in a harsh and unforgiving environment. As civilization progressed, games with a higher degree of sophistication were introduced. Board games were created, such as Monopoly and chess, to teach business and strategy. Playing cards and the abacus became useful tools in teaching mathematics. The 20th century became a watershed moment for this evolution of game-based learning. With the advent of computers and electronic video games, a whole new era of exploration and research was opened for game-based learning. Simulation and virtual environment programs came into existence. With the sophistication of these technologies, game-based learning programs have not only become engineering feats, but they've also become works of art. Game-based learning has created many opportunities for careers of professional specialty. The creation of game-based learning programs is a collective effort between instructional designers, psychologists, programmers, electronic engineers, software engineers, and of course, artists. Yes, game-based learning has come of age and is here to stay. It has become part of our daily lives. It permeates every sinew of our culture. Its positive impact will be felt throughout the existing world for years to come. Given this presentation on game-based learning, the student will be able to summarize the origins of game-based learning, differentiate between the technological and non-technological forms of game-based learning, identify the characteristics of game-based learning, describe the risks associated with game-based learning, and predict the future applications of game-based learning.
whether they are electronic or non-electronic. Games have always provided players with a sense of challenge and victory. Many players will continue playing over and over to overcome the challenges if along the way they gain points, rewards, or additional lives. This too can be applied to game-based learning. Game-based learning can be as successful as entertainment game if it has some of these specific characteristics. The characteristics that can make game-based learning so successful are competition, engagement, and immediate rewards. Competition provides a sense of challenge. Game players will continue to strive and struggle against challenge until the challenge is overcome. In game-based learning, players can participate individually or in teams. Whether playing individually or in teams, they can play against each other or opponents built into the games. Players are motivated because of the satisfaction they received after having overcome a challenge. Engagement is a necessary ingredient in the creation of game-based learning. The game must have the ability to engage the player in such a way that the player needs to continue playing until the game is over and victory has been achieved. This is accomplished by the use of phenomena described by Lepper and Cordova in 1992. They referred to this phenomena as intrinsic motivation and ascribed it to four sources: challenge, curiosity, control, and fantasy. Immediate rewards is the part that keeps a player engaged and wanting to continue competing. The promotion from one level to the next, the descriptive feedback, the victory of overcoming a challenge, or just receiving points keep the player engaged, motivated, and desiring to continue playing. Having this characteristic in game-based learning is what makes game-based learning an excellent teaching tool. In order to create a good learning game, learning goals have to be essential for winning, or the material will likely be ignored. A good learning game needs to have continuous challenges. Setting short and long-term goals and making the goals obtainable by overcoming specific challenges can accomplish this. Additionally, it is important that each challenge fulfills a learning objective, answer a question, or complete a portion of a journey. It is also very important that the learning game have an interesting storyline. In the process of creating a learning game, it is important to consider questions such as what is interesting for a second grader, what is interesting for a seventh grader, or what is interesting for a 12th grader. A learning game should have flexibility in how goals are achieved. Different learners should be able to achieve goals in different ways. These could be more challenging or less challenging. Shortcuts and secret branches can also be incorporated. This would allow for more savvy learners to become skillful at the game and pass on knowledge to less savvy learners through cooperative play. Most electronic games reward the player with points and possibly extra lives. In game-based learning, points are not enough to keep a learner engaged in learning. The ultimate goal of game-based learning is for the player to learn and to use that knowledge to overcome the challenges, move to higher levels, and build upon the knowledge gained with each level. This helps keep the learner engaged and desiring to complete the game. In most electronic games, reality is virtual. It poses no danger to the player if he or she makes a mistake. In game-based learning, mistakes can be a welcome tool to assist the learner in the learning process. The virtual reality affords the learner an environment where learning can be fun, and it is okay to make mistakes. Mistakes can be part of the learning process. One of the biggest challenges in creating game-based learning is return on investment. The electronic game industry can invest millions of dollars in the creation of one single game. However, if the game is good, they stand to earn a great deal of profit from that one game. This isn't so true for educational games. Because educational games are designed for education, the consumer market for educational games is composed mainly of educational institutions, the home education industry, and some parents who wish to provide learning aids for their children. This return on investment issue really puts game-based learning at a disadvantage. Because they are not lucrative for the electronic video game industry, video game companies avoid creating them. Perhaps a solution to the return on investment issue for game-based learning will best be created by the instructional design industry.
We need to move beyond the idea that an education is something that is provided for us and toward the idea that an education is something that we create for ourselves. As games have gotten more complicated and higher fidelity for more scenarios can be explored, and learners can safely experiment with topics they are learning. Military recruitment on GoArmy.com, PEO Stride Games for Training, Urban Sims, Virtual Battlespace, detection of PTSD as reported by Wired's Danger Room are all simulation and the use of game platforms. K-12 education quests for Atlantis and Second Life are also simulation platforms. Gamification applies game principles to learning activities to motivate and signal success. Originally not developed for use in educational processes and systems, it has been increasingly used in learning scenarios. This can be successful in breaking the monotony of incremental skill development or repetitive exercises necessary for long-term learning gains. Math skills that build in complexity for level skills, language skills that require repeated exposure through a variety of similar expressions are included. Yes, game-based learning has definitely come of age. Electronic video games have evolved from Atari Pong to Nintendo Wii, from Pac-Man to Sons of Warcraft. The technology has grown from simple video screens to virtual worlds and simulations. Many genres of video games are now being used for game-based learning. The keys to their success have been the ability to engage and provide competition. They offer continuous challenges, engaging storylines, and they combine fun with realism. Game-based learning is being implemented in schools, grades K through 12. It is being used in higher education. Even in the military, game-based learning is being used on many training fronts that vary from underground infantry to aircraft piloting. Yes, the whole paradigm of education is becoming one with game-based learning. Working with instructional design, researchers, software engineers, computer programs, and graphic artists are creating even more sophisticated programs for game-based learning. The evolution of game-based learning still continues. With the work of these skilled professionals, game-based learning will continue to evolve and spread. The art of teaching and learning will become more streamlined, more efficient, and more fun.